Shalom, all praise to Yahweh Shem Yahushua, Devil Honesty Apostles GMS. My name is Anwar Allah. Coming at you with the video. And I was reading the book of Galatians yesterday, the day before yesterday, and I was reading it again earlier. And I wanted to do a show on Galatians, the second chapter, because I was looking at the first two verses, going through the scriptures, and getting a deeper understanding on it. And I wanted to do a show to shed this light on this understanding, this light of understanding on other brothers. So I'm going to start from Galatians, the first chapter, because basically it speaks about when the Apostle Paul had went up again to Jerusalem with Barnabas to see the other apostles, and he goes into his apostleship to the Gentiles. He goes into him. Well, you brothers understand it, so I just want to get right to the lesson. This is the book of Galatians, the first chapter. I'm gonna start from verse let's see, because I got my Bible right beside my phone. So this is Galatians chapter 1. I'm gonna start from verse 9. Galatians chapter 1 verse 9. As we said before, so say I now again, if any man preach any other gospel unto you than that ye have received, let him be accursed. For do I now persuade men, or the Most High? Or do I seek to please men? For if I yet please men, I should not be the servant of Yahushua. But I certify you, brethren, that the gospel which was preached of me is not of the man. For I neither received it of man, neither was I taught it, but by the revelation of Yahushua. And that's how the Apostle Paul was taught the gospel. You can read about that in the book of Corinthians, when the Apostle Paul was caught up into the third heaven. For I neither received it of man, neither was I taught it, but by the revelation of Yahushua, which the third heaven is the spirit world, where the Most High dwells, the angels, where the Most High, Yahweh, Yahushua and the angels dwell. Verse 13. For ye have heard of my conversation in time past in the Jews' religion, which the word religion in the Bible just means worship. That's all it really means. I gotta see if I can get that right there. Because the Bible is in the book of religion. It's a book of laws, statutes, and commandments. History.
Strong's G 2454. Eudaismas. Eudaismas.
Eudaismas. Let's see what it says here. The Jewish faith and worship, religion of the Jews, Judaism, which they're going off. There's not no Judaism, but the on point when it says worship. Okay. So continuing on. For ye have heard of my conversation in time past in the Jews' religion or Jews' worship, how that beyond measure I persecuted the church of the Most High and wasted it. You can read about that in the book of Acts. In fact, let me read that real quick. Acts 8th chapter. Now this is referencing when Stephen was killed, which Stephen was a man of the Lord. This is the book of Acts, the 8th chapter. This is when Stephen was stoned. I'm not going to read the whole chapter, but I'm going to go to the end. Alright, this is talking about Stephen. It says, Then they cried out with a loud voice and stopped their ears and ran upon him with one accord, and cast him out of the city, and stoned him. And the witnesses laid down their clothes at the young man's feet, whose name was Saul. And they stoned Stephen, calling upon the Most High, and saying, Lord, they stoned Stephen, calling upon the Most High, and saying, Lord Yahushua, receive my spirit. And he kneeled down and cried with a loud voice, Lord, lay not this into their charge. And when he had said this, he fell asleep, which he was really referencing the Apostle Paul. When he made that statement, Lord, nail this into their charge. Don't charge them guilty. Acts 8:1. And Saul was consenting unto his death. See, he was consenting unto his death. He agreed upon his death. Look at the word consenting. Because when you give somebody consent, you're agreeing to something, giving them permission.
Strong's G 4909, Sunudakeo. Sunudakeo.
Sunudakeo. To be pleased together with, to approve together with others, to be pleased at the same time with, consent agreed to applause. So the Apostle Paul was pleased with his death. He approved of his death. Okay? And Saul was consenting unto his death. And at that time, there was a great persecution against the church which was at Jerusalem. And they were all scattered abroad throughout the regions of Judea and Samaria, except the apostles. That's just to give an example. Now let's go back. Matter of fact, I gotta read that next. Gotta read down to verse 3. Excuse me. Acts 8:2. And devout men carried Stephen to his burial and made great lamentation over him. As for Saul, he made havoc of the church, entering into every house and hailing men and women, committed them to prison. Look at the word hailing, real quick.
Strong's G 4951, Suro. Suro.
Suro. And it says to draw, drag, of one before the judge to prison to punishment. Okay? So he was hailing them out of the church. He made havoc. Look at the word havoc. I got the word havoc there.
Strong's G 3075, Lumino. Lumino.
Lumino.
Thayer's Lexicon. Luminamai. Luminamai.
Lumino. To affix a stigma to dishonor, spot, defile, to treat shamefully, or with injury, to ravage, devastate, ruin. So he's brought havoc upon the church. Why? Because they was teaching, because what was being taught. Remember, the Apostle Paul was a Pharisee. The Apostle Paul was entrenched in the law. And what was being taught was that we were not justified by the law, but rather we justified by faith in Yahweh Shah. So the Apostle Paul was causing havoc upon those that believed in Yahweh Shah. And he was wrong for that. He was going off. And Saul was also known as Paul. Same person. So let's go back. And as you can see, my phone's on 19%. It has dropped like 3% already. You know, so I gotta kind of go through this quick. So it says, for ye have heard of my conversation in time past in the Jews' religion, had that beyond measure I persecuted the church of the Most High and wasted it. You know, when you waste something, you destroy it. Let's go to that word persecute.
Strong's G 1377, Dioko. Dioko.
Dioko. To make, to run or flee, put to flight, drive away, to run swiftly, in order to catch a person or thing, to run after. So to run or make flee. You read down, it says, in any way, whatever, to harass, trouble, molest one, or to harm. To persecute, to be mistreated, suffer persecution on account of something. So he pursued after them. He mistreated them. He brought trouble unto them. That's what it means when he persecuted them. We read about that in Acts the 7th and Acts the 8th chapter. Continuing on, but when it pleased the Most High, who separated me from my mother's womb and called me by his grace, to reveal his Son in me, that I might preach him among the heathen, immediately I conferred not with flesh and blood. Get a word conferred. So we can get to understand. You gotta go into these words. Conferred.
Strong's G 4323, Prasanatithemi. Prasanatithemi.
Prasanatithemi. It says to lay upon in addition to lay upon oneself in addition, to undertake besides, to put oneself upon another by going to him, to commit to betake oneself to another for the purpose of consulting him, to consult, to take one into counsel, to add from one's store, to communicate in part. So the best one definition here would have to be to communicate. So let's go back. to communicate, or to consult, or to lay upon self in addition. But let's go back to it and break it down. It says, to reveal his son in me, that I might preach him among the heathen. Immediately I conferred not with flesh and blood. I'm not sure if I said not the first time I read it. Immediately I conferred not with flesh and blood, meaning I consulted not with flesh and blood. Because why? Yahushua was revealed to the Apostle Paul, and he was taught by Yahushua in the third heaven. As we read earlier, the Apostle Paul didn't receive this revelation by men, nor was he taught it. The Apostle Paul said that in the same book, in Galatians chapter 1, verse 12 and 11. See, Galatians 1:11. But I certify you, brethren, that the gospel which was preached of me is not after man. Verse 12, for I neither received it of men, neither was I taught it, but by the revelation of Yahushua. So you read down here in verse 16, to reveal his son in me, that I might preach him among the heathen. Immediately I conferred not with flesh and blood, or I consulted not with flesh and blood, because he was revealed to him by the Spirit. Neither went I up. And it was the Spirit that was guiding the Apostle Paul through all of these things. Spirit that led him to go to this place, to go to that place, as we're going to read. Neither went I up to Jerusalem to them which were apostles before me, but I went into Arabia, and returned again unto Damascus. Then after 3 years I went up to Jerusalem to see Peter, and abode with him 15 days. But other of the apostles saw I none, save James the Lord's brother, to my Yahushua. Now the things which I write unto you, behold, before the Most High I lie not. Afterwards I came into the regions of Syria and Cilicia, and was unknown by face unto the churches of Judea which were in Yahushua. But they had heard only. So he was not known by face. Nobody had seen these people that knew of the Apostle Paul. They haven't seen him by face. They haven't seen him physically. But they knew of his reputation, and was unknown by face unto the churches of Judea which were in Yahushua. That's when you go into Acts. When the Apostle Paul came around, you had the apostles that was like, oh, that's Apostle Paul. You know? I mean, that's Paul. That's the guy that's persecuting the churches. You know? You had certain of them that wasn't too accepting of the Apostle Paul in the beginning. Let me see if I can find that real quick. Alright, let's see. Let me see if I can find that real quick. Give me 1 second, let me pause it. Okay. Let me go back to Galatians 1:22. 1:21. Afterwards I came into the regions of Syria and Cilicia, and was unknown by face unto the churches of Judea which were in Yahushua. So they was unknown. He was unknown by face, but they had heard only that he which persecuted us in times past now preacheth the faith which he once destroyed. Let's go to Acts 9:26. Acts 9:26. It says, and when Saul was come to Jerusalem, he essayed to join himself to the apostles, but they were all afraid of him, and believed not that he was a disciple. See? They believed not that he was a disciple. But Barnabas took him and brought him to the apostles, and declared unto them how he had seen the Lord in the way, and that he had spoken to him, and how he had preached boldly at Damascus in the name of Yahushua. So that first the apostles were afraid of him, because what? They knew of his reputation. Okay? They knew his reputation. And he said when he came into the churches in Judea, said that in Galatians 1:22. And right here it says when the Apostle Paul came to Jerusalem. So when this happened, people didn't know of the Apostle Paul by face. They didn't know him by face. They just knew of his reputation. So once they seen the guy and they found out that this was Paul, at first they didn't view the Apostle Paul as an apostle. They just knew of what it was that he'd done. They knew of his history, they knew of his reputation. So back in Galatians 1:22, and was unknown by face unto the churches of Judea, which were in Yahushua. But they had heard only that he which persecuted us in times past now preacheth the faith which he once destroyed. Okay? And how do we know about that? We just read it because Barnabas explained it to them. Okay? Let me get back to the page I had in my Bible, because I wrote precepts down right next to the scriptures. So I'm read this verse, Galatians 1:23 again. But they had heard only that he which persecuted us in times past now preacheth the faith which he once destroyed. This is the book of 1 Timothy 1 and 9 to 16. So let's get into this. 1 Timothy 1 and 9. Knowing this, that the law is not made for a righteous man, but for the lawless and disobedient, for the ungodly, and for sinners, and for unholy and profane, for murderers of fathers, and murderers of mothers, for manslayers, for whoremongers, for them that defile themselves with mankind. That's the homosexual that's talking about. For men stealers, for liars, for perjured persons, and if there be any other thing that is contrary to sound doctrine, sound meaning healthy. If I say this person is safe and sound, they're safe because they're away from danger, but are they sound? Are they healthy? Because you can be away from danger and have a broken leg. A tiger, you can get ripped up by a tiger, and you could be away from the tiger, safe, locked in a room that the tiger can't get to you. But guess what? You bleeding to death. You're safe, but you're not sound. Sound means healthy. Are you of a sound mind or a healthy mind? Okay? And so sound doctrine and a healthy doctrine are talking about the scriptures. Verse 11. According to the glorious gospel of the blessed power which was committed to my trust. And I thank Yahweh Shai, our Lord, who had enabled me, for that he counted me faithful, putting me into the ministry, who was before a blasphemer, and a persecutor, and injurious, but I obtained mercy because I did it ignorantly in unbelief. That's why Stephen said what? Lay not this sin to their charge. He was really referencing the Apostle Paul. This says when Yahweh Shai mentioned, I believe in the book of John the 16th chapter, when he said, there's gonna come a time when they that persecuted you gonna believe they do the Most High service. That was really referencing the Apostle Paul. Okay, because he thought he was right, but he was really wrong. He was going off. He was being wicked. Okay, but he did it ignorantly in unbelief. And the grace of our Lord was exceeding abundant with faith and love which is in Yahweh Shai. This is a faithful saying and worthy of all acceptation, that Yahweh Shai came into the world to save sinners, of whom I am chief. Howbeit for this cause I obtained mercy, that in me first Yahweh Shai might show forth all long suffering. See, howbeit for this cause I obtained mercy. That's why he obtained mercy. Because of the sins that he committed, him being a blasphemer, and him being a persecutor, and him being injurious, all in unbelief, he obtained mercy, that in me first Yahweh Shai might show forth all long suffering. So the Apostle Paul was not just an apostle to the Gentile because he knew different language and he was well versed in different aspects of and different philosophies, but because the Apostle Paul himself was a blasphemer, a persecutor, and injurious. So the Most High said, I'm going to use this man to be a vessel to go teach the Israelite foreigners, so that he can be a pattern for all those people who lived a life similar to himself. Howbeit for this cause I obtain mercy, that in me first Yahweh Shai might show forth all long suffering, or mercy. See that? Long suffering is mercy. If you have a child that's acting out of order, you're long suffering with that child. You're showing mercy. Let me look at the word long suffering real quick. Okay, long suffering. Because the word long suffering real quick. Okay.
Strong's G 3115. Makrathumia. Makrathumia.
Makrathumia. Patience, endurance, constancy, steadfastness, perseverance, patience, forbearance, long suffering, slowness in avenging wrongs. Or in other words, mercy. So patience, endurance, and slowness in avenging wrongs. So it said what? Howbeit for this cause I obtain mercy, that in me first Yahweh Shai might show forth all long suffering, or might show forth all slowness and avenging wrongs, might show forth all patience, might show forth all endurance, or all mercy. Okay? And when Yahweh Shai died and shed his blood, mercy was given unto Israel. Grace was given unto Israel. So the Apostle Paul was used as a pattern to show forth that long suffering. He had long suffering upon this apostle, mercy upon this apostle. Now he's going to teach or grace upon this apostle. Now he's going to teach you how the grace of Yahweh Shai is bestowed upon you too, you Israelite foreigners, also known as Gentiles. Howbeit for this cause I obtain mercy, that in me first Yahweh Shai might show forth all long suffering, for a pattern to them which should hereafter believe on him to everlasting. Okay. Now let me go back to Galatians 1:24, and they glorified the Most High in me. Let's get a scripture on that. In fact, I'm going to go back to 1:23, Galatians 1:23. But they had heard only that he would persecute us in times past. Now preaches the faith which he wants to destroy. We went around that. How him that persecuted the church in time past now preaches the faith that he wants to destroy. We went to Acts 9th chapter in 26th verse, and we just came from 1 Timothy the 1st chapter. So now we're reading Galatians the 1st chapter in 24th verse, and they glorified the Most High in me. This is 1 Corinthians chapter 12 verse 26. And I'm gonna end it on this verse, and I'm gonna come back and do another lesson, do the part 2. Maybe 2 or 3 parts. My phone about to die, it's on 16%, and once it hit 15%, something gonna pop up on the screen letting me know. 1 Corinthians 12 and 26. And whether one member suffer, all the members suffer with it. Or one member be honored, all the members rejoice with it. So the Apostle Paul, being a member of the body who was being honored, all the members rejoice with it. That's what the Apostle Paul said. What? In Galatians, the 1st chapter, he said, and they glorified the Most High in me, because he's a member of the body. He was being honored, and all members are honored with it. So with that, I'm going to close. I hope brothers learned something, and I'm going to come back with a part 2 to this thing. And with that, I'm going to say, Lord willing. With that, I'm going to say, all praise to Yahweh Shem Yahshua. Hope brothers learned something. Shalom.